Assassin's Promise by Thomas Woodward. Chapter 109. Millie followed along with Kayana as the two women surveyed the long line of multicolored tents. Millie was nervous. Their meeting with Gavis, who seemed to be the leader of the merchant encampment, was nearing. She looked over to her left hand, where she unconsciously gripped the midnight black fabric from whence the serpent had come. It glittered metallically. Hidden pockets of gold appeared erratically as it shifted in the wind. Millie had slept with a cloth tied tightly around her wrist. She was afraid the cloth might unravel at any moment and transform into the immense adder that she had stared down the other day. The three-eyed god, they had said. What power did it hold over them? Millie had questions. Hopefully Gavis would be willing to answer some of them. Kayana lounged easily as she moved. There was a deadly ease to her movements that Millie had seen before. She knew the guardsmen could break into a fighting stance in a breath. That brought some comfort to her, but the fact remained that they were completely surrounded by a people who could be either allies or enemies. Yesterday's meeting could have gone very differently. She chose not to think further on the subject. Irna had gathered her children and left the large tent before the first light, not wanting to spend even a moment with the two of them more than she had to. Irna held superstitious beliefs that linked Millie's actions to that of a demon made flesh, or perhaps those of a woman who had been bewitched. In either case, Irna refused to speak another word to either Millie or Kayana. Little Island had cried upon their parting. The child would not understand the intense feelings of fear and revulsion his mother had held for them. Millie would miss the children. They were innocent of all of this. Kayana had reassured her that what Millie had done was natural given her situation, but Millie wondered, was she a demon? Why had no other person been granted the favor of the three-eyed god in the last 100 years? She felt a chill that was at odds with the heat of the desert afternoon. A merchant beckoned to them, holding out dried sweet fruits, an aroma of spices wafting through the air. "Blessed favored one, please try some of our delicacies. It will bring honor to Jafiz and his family." The merchant pointed to himself and gave them a wide smile. "Annalena, fetch some tea for our guests." The merchant clapped his hands and gestured for Millie and Kayana to come into the tent. "Thank you, child." A big-eared child of perhaps 10 appeared with 2 steaming mugs of dark liquid on an ornate platter. The child's dark curls spilled over her eyes and down her back in a loose braid that was gathered by a dull orange strip of cloth. She smiled at the 2 young women who entered the merchant's tent. Kayana was the first to reach for a mug, carefully blocking Millie's way so she could sip the dark liquid before her. After a moment, she moved out of the way and gestured for Millie to take her own mug. A delicate flavor. Kayana flashed a genuine, secret smile and gazed back into the mug. Jafiz motioned for his 2 guests to seat themselves at a raised table, complete with beautifully painted yellow pillows that were placed as seats on each side of the finely crafted wood table. "I did not expect to see another approach the serpent and step away unscathed in my lifetime." The older merchant had a faraway look that came over him as he cocked his head in remembrance. "There was a boy many years ago who approached the great serpent, in much the way you had. He was an outsider, who came to us amid a swirling sandstorm. I was a lad of no more than 20 myself. And in those days, outsiders were a rarity. His colorings were strange. A shock of bright red hair covered his head. Indeed, he had fine red hairs on his arms and face. He was like no other boy I have ever seen. The merchant council sent a group of slaves, bearing the twisting fabric to call forth our god. They sat in judgment in a great pavilion erected by a team of servants as the boy approached. You see, few are ever chosen by the ritual which has passed through our history since time immemorial. Only those who are seen as outsiders, who come to us against our knowledge, or those unlucky enough to stumble upon us, are presented with the gift. The gift is a test. It is the sacred step we must follow before consigning an outsider to death for trespassing against us. Our mystics have always believed that only those who are truly favored by the great three-eyed serpent will survive. It is simply our duty to provide those who breach our customs with the gift. No child born to our people willingly meets with our deity while in this life. To do so would bring great destruction down on us." Millie sipped the dark liquid, listening with her complete attention. "Why do you do this? Why not accept those who come to you with open arms, good sir?" Millie looked down, embarrassed to have brought the question up unbidden. "Indeed, child, you are wise. Our great gathering comes but once every 5 years, and during that time our greatest minds and talents share the knowledge of their craft. To lose such information to outsiders would bring ruin upon us. Some believe that for this reason, those who attempt to secret themselves among us uninvited are scourged from this world. However, there is another truth." The old merchant's eyes twinkled. His daughter, Annalena, sat at his feet, a rapt expression on her face. She looked back to Millie, waiting to see if she would ask the inevitable question. "Will you tell me?" Millie asked. "You see, we are looking for something which our people have forgotten over the centuries. We no longer know why we look, but secreted in the gift lies the answer. What it is, I cannot say." The old merchant spread his hands, a wistful look on his face. Kayana moved forward slowly, so as to not frighten the man. She put a hand on the table near his. "Why do you seek?" There was an intensity about her question that was compelling. Millie, too, wanted to know. She waited, hoping the merchant would reveal more. "I do not know." The merchant turned, bringing out a bowl of spiced fruit that had a wonderful aroma. "I am old among my people. Most of my childhood friends are now dead. I remember being taught about some of the old ways by my elders when I was a child myself, but the memories are mostly gone. I think even the elders wondered. We have been following tradition for so long, many things have become lost. What lingers are the rituals, if not the purpose behind them." Annalena snatched at the bowl, hungrily devouring a choice piece of dried fruit, a blissful expression coming over her youthful face. Jafiz smiled in spite of himself, before gently pushing her hands away before she could gobble more up. "Please, I would like to share with you. What is mine is yours this day." Kayana carefully picked up a piece, taking a long moment before choosing one. A look of sadness and loss passed over her features. After a moment, she chose another piece and pressed it to Millie's palm. A beautiful smile painted Kayana's features. "They remind me of sun peppers." Millie inspected the fruit as she might a poisonous adder, before timidly taking a small nibble. Afterwards, she beamed and ate the rest with abandon. "Thank you, kind sir. You have been so kind to us," Millie said. "You honor us with your grace," Jafiz answered. "If only I could see with the sight of the fates, but it is enough just to see you." Annalena refilled their mugs with dark liquid. The flavorful tea energized them. Millie rose, Kayana shadowing her. "There are no goodbyes." The merchant turned then and walked back into the tent, leaving the two young women on the bustling thoroughfare that linked the long row of tents.